Hello everyone and welcome. In today's video we'll be working with Spellbinders Color Swatch Wheel and the Color Swatch Petal. And I am going to just be showing you how I went about this. I took the petal, the largest part of it, and used the big piece for my white colored or my white cardstock, and I just used a 110-pound hammer mill. And for me, it just seemed the best way to do all of my white panels first. So you can see I've got a big stack of them here, and I'm just finishing off. You're going to need 48 pieces to cover every color that is in the color wheel. So I'm doing 48 pieces of this white, and then I'll be bringing in my packaging of my colors, and I've done a couple of the color wheels, but you'll have to do several of those as well. And I'll do more of those off camera. But I'm choosing to do all of my white first before I do my colored, because when you open this package, you want to keep them in order. It will help you identify the colors. Now, it may not be perfectly in order. I noticed a couple of times where maybe they had flipped the two panels when they put them in there, but they're fairly close. Now, my best suggestion to you is, if you get this, to go on the Spellbinders website and print off their color chart. They've got all 48 of them listed, and they've got them listed in their four little groups. And so I would recommend that. I also recommend figuring out how all three of those dies can fit nicely together on a small piece of cardstock so that you can get them all cut out at once. That depends on if you want to do both the wheel and the petal. Now, what I did right here in the beginning is I'm just showing you a couple of them where I've taken the first couple of colors and I'm laying it down on both. But once I paused the camera, I decided to take my stamp for the Spellbinders and stamp all my colors on the white before I laid the colored pattern paper on here. So I'll do a couple of them, and then I'll realize that that's the best way I want to do it. And then I'll quickly finish them up that way. And it's a much better system for staying organized and keeping your colors in order. So that's what I'd recommend. Now, not all of you use Spellbinders cardstock. I use it on my channel almost every day. And so for me, it was beneficial to go through and do all of the colors for Spellbinders and get them all labeled. And you can see they've got a stamp set for every one of their colors, and you can just stamp it. And you can use an acrylic block. These stamps stamp very nicely, and I was able to do it. Only a couple of times when I wasn't paying attention and I had ink on my fingers, so I get a little bit messy, but otherwise they stamped up fairly well. Now, if you don't use Spellbinders, you could still get the petal and create a swatch of any type of paper, any type of marker or stamp or anything that you want to swatch out for anything in your craft room. These would be an excellent addition for that purpose. So you might consider that, and they're relatively inexpensive. So I would just, if you really want to get organized, I think this is a great way. And from a color standpoint, understanding colors, you know, no matter what company's cardstock you use, I think it would be great to have them all swatched out. Now, obviously, you might not have the stamps for them, but you could easily, you know, just write the color on there just to help keep yourself organized. And certainly the same goes for your markers, your ink pads, whatever you want to swatch out. This is just a great way to do it. So this, on this, the wheel here, I'm just putting the four colors together that coordinate, and then we'll leave the other two white. And I'll do that all along so that I'll have all the little color palettes together. And I am not going to make you watch me stamp and die cut out all 48 of these. I think I do a couple here in the end, and then I'll do, you know, a break, and I'll do 4 at the end. Now, this is a project that you want to space out. The die cutting of those white bases, I did over a period of several days. Anytime I was in my craft room and really just messing around, I would just crank out, you know, a handful of them. And then the next time I was in there, I'd crank out a handful more. That kind of helps break up the tediousness of it. But I think it's a great project. It did take a while, but I was very satisfied and felt accomplished when I got it done, because I have all of my swatches for all my Spellbinders paper, and I can easily reference it to decide what color I want to use. So I think they're very handy. And if you are interested in getting uber organized in your craft room and you want to have swatches, this could be a great tool, regardless of what paper product or medium you use. So what I did was I referenced their color chart and just started laying it down in order of the reference of the color chart so that I could get them laid down right. And like I said, I noticed a couple times when and I kept that stack exactly perfect because I thought they probably had them in order. And a couple times I did notice that I had to flip a couple of them because they might have gotten flipped when they laid them down or something. But otherwise, it was fairly easy to do. Now, the swatches that we have are not available. But if you happen to be one of those that are, an affiliate and getting the sponsors and kind of checking out how to do it, the best way to do it is keep it in order. And then if you just have their product, obviously you're going to have the label on it, so you can just cut out a little piece and do it. I think this was I thought I measured it. I think it's a 2.5 by 4.25 piece. I'm not sure exactly, but you're going to need a good little piece of swatch for this. To get all 3 pieces on there. And you certainly don't have to do the reinforcement with the collar. I just chose to do it because I was able to fit it on there. But you're definitely going to want your wheel swatch and your petal swatch if you're going to use both those options. So I'm just working through the rest of these red color palettes. And then we'll take a break and come back and we'll finish off with the last of the neutrals, and I'll have all of the swatches ready to go and feeling very accomplished. I realized, like I said, right now I'm laying it down. I was laying it down and then stamping it. Now I've realized it's better to stamp before you lay down, and I'm going to go ahead and finish this 4th one, and then when I sit down to do it, I will just do all the stamping on the white, and then I will lay them down. And the reason why is I figured out that I was getting ink on my fingers and I didn't want to touch my cardstock with ink on my fingers, so I just decided stamp everything, clean your hands all up, and then glue it down, and it works out better that way. So that just worked out much better for me. Now, certainly if you have a Cricut or something like that, you could certainly create something like this and make your swatches. But here we go. So I've got those ready to go. I've got this one last piece. I'm going to finish it up, I think, and then we'll come back and do the rest of them. Now, I found that it was helpful because of the way I was doing it to just tape those 3 dies together. And I could get several passes with it, but then I'd have to replace it and put some new tape on. So I'm just going to finish up this last of the dark reds, and then we'll pause, and I will do 40 more of them, and then we'll come back in and do the last 4. And so this was, I spent the whole, afternoon working on these, just watching friends on lives and just, enjoying myself and just taking my time and, getting this done. And you can see I got some ink on there for my finger, and that's when I decided that all of the inking needed to be done first because you can see it on the white base, which it doesn't matter because I'm going to cover it up. But I was trying to keep them as nice as I could. So that's when I decided all stamping would be done first, apart from the gluing the paper down on there. And it worked out really well because I had them stacked and I had them in alphabetical order. And so when I grabbed the color, I could just grab the petal that I was going to lay that color down on and just lay it right down on there, and it worked out really well. So we'll finish this one up. And I'm going to show you, you've got a reinforcer for that you can put on there as well. And so then we've got our 4 petals here of our reds, and I'm just kind of putting them in order, and there we go. So I'll come back, and at this point I've done 44 because I did the reds and I did 40 more, and now I've got 4 more left to do, and we're doing like the neutrals. You've got like brown neutrals, and you've got gray, black, and white, and I'm doing the gray, black, and white. That's not the colors. Fog. I can't remember all the colors, but anyway, I'm just going to finish these up and just kind of show you my process. Now you can see there that the wheels are stamped, and if you can zoom in on that, let's see, you can see that that's Fog, Anchor, Raven, and Classic White. Those are the last 4 that we have left to do. So, you can see I replaced my tape. I just every so often had to replace the tape so that, because it was just getting chewed up through the die cutting machine. So you make several passes. I mean, if you think about the petals and then the colors and then the wheel, well, I guess you're doing 3 times 48. So it's quite a bit of, well, it wouldn't be quite 3 times 40. It'd be 2 times 48, and then however many of those wheels there are for the collars. I can't remember. I didn't count them. But anyhow, it is quite a bit of, quite several passes on your die cutting machine. So you do want to kind of spread it out and just kind of take your time and enjoy it. So I've got my fog laid down on there. I'm going to do my anchor and get it laid down on there. And I turned them upside down and laid them because I was doing them in order of the chart, and that's how I decided I was going to keep them. So as I got one done, I just turned it upside down, and I was real careful to keep them stacked exactly like I wanted to them, so I wouldn't have to shuffle through them again, and I was trying to be real careful with it. I think at one point I did, when I was down almost to the end, I did knock the stack off on the floor, but it was so nice that they all landed perfectly, exactly together. It was a miracle. So I didn't have to mess with it, but I was just trying to be precise. So we'll get this anchor laid down on here and the tab for it, and then we'll move on to Raven. And then we've got Classic White. They have some 12 by 12 48-piece packs that you can buy from Spellbinders right now, but I saw they were out of the 8.5 and 11. They went out pretty quick, and I did this. I was a little bit behind the game with this. Not much, because they kind of sent it to me late, but anyway, being sick, I just could not get in the craft room at all, and so I just try to get it done as soon as I can. But like I said, I'm very pleased to have this done and to be able to reference it. And like I said, you could use this on any cardstock you have. So we'll just get this Raven laid down on there, and we're almost wrapping this up. I know this isn't an extremely exciting video to watch as far as, from a crafting standpoint, but from an organizational standpoint and just having the ability to swatch out your materials, I think that's pretty handy. So I want to show you that. Plus, it's relatively inexpensive to get the dies, even if you just get the petals and want to swatch out your stuff. I think it's a good deal to get organized. And if you are a Spellbinders fan, you can get those stamps that have the names on there and just, really get yourself organized. The other thing I thought about the stamps as I was using with them is the name of the cardstock is so varied that there's a lot of words on there that you could use for a lot of different things, I thought. Fairy tale, I think, was one of them. Breeze, just lots of words. Tuscan and Sicily and Raven, and just lots of words that you could use those little bitty. It'd be fun to make some, maybe like a background pattern with just all those words. You could make a background panel and have all those words on there. So it'd be a fun way to bring in, just an unusual word that you wouldn't normally see in a stamp set. Might be fun for Craft Roulette for some of the weird things that they have on there. Now, this is if you want to cut a whole bunch out in one color, I guess. What you could do with that is you could die cut out a whole bunch of white and then bring your markers in and color them in, and it would make it simple for that. Yeah, I grabbed my markers to show. You could also do that with your inks. You could just cut a bunch out and swatch your ink pads out on it. So that's great. So I'm going to bring in a couple of hoops that I had. I've got a bigger one for this because, you've got a pretty thick stack there with all your colors. And then I'm going to bring in a smaller ring for this one and hook these up. Now, Spellbinders has the rings. I had rings in my stash that I already had on hand. I picked them up from Hobby Lobby, but you can do that, and you can just kind of create your little wheels and look at your different color palettes. I thought it'd be fun to just, use that when I'm thinking about what colors I want to use and what really would layer up together nicely and everything. So they're handy tools. I can see myself using that swatch pad a lot for when I'm picking up my paper for my cards. So very cool. Check it out. And thanks for watching. Have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.